What if I told you that the bowl of ice cream in your freezer used to cost someone their fingers, sometimes their life? Picture a frozen lake in the dead of night, somewhere in New England, sometime in the 1800s. No electric light, no safety rope, just men with iron saws, cutting through ice 18 inches thick, hauling out blocks that weigh more than they do. One wrong step and the lake swallows them whole. Most people have no idea what it actually took to make something cold before electricity existed. These men aren't doing this for themselves. They'll never taste what this ice becomes. 1,000 miles south, a wealthy family will spoon flavoured cream into their mouths and think nothing of it. To understand why men were willing to die for frozen cream, you have to go back much further than you think. This isn't just the story of ice cream. This is the story of what humans will do across 2,500 years, across empires, to hold winter in their hands in the middle of summer. I'm Owen Brooks, and on Untold History Diaries, we dig past the version of history you were handed into the version nobody bothered to write down, because behind that bowl of ice cream is a chain of emperors, chemists, and labourers who never met each other, never knew their names would vanish, and never stopped trying anyway. And it begins, like so many impossible things, with an emperor who refused to accept the seasons. Places us in China, somewhere around 200 BC. In the mountains of the north, a runner moves downhill through the dark, snow packed tight in straw bundles strapped across his back, the straw already damp, already heavier than it should be. He doesn't stop. Somewhere below, kitchens are waiting to mix that snow with buffalo milk and camphor, chasing a coldness nobody yet has a word for. The story goes that an emperor loved this treat so much he kept nearly 100 men on staff for one job only: keep the ice coming. Half a world away, in Persia, 400 BC, there's no running involved at all. Engineers have already solved the problem permanently, building yakhchals, towering clay domes that trap winter ice underground and hold it solid through summers of 40 degrees Celsius. With no machinery, no fuel, no moving parts whatsoever. Step inside one at noon and the air turns blue cold within seconds. The heat outside forgotten like it belongs to another planet. What an ancient Persian engineer understood about cold in 400 BC, modern Europe would not match for another 2,000 years. Two civilizations. Two completely different answers to the same impossible question. How do you make winter last? One sends a man running through the night. The other builds something that runs forever, asking nothing of anyone. From those mountain runners, the obsession with cold spread, and every civilization it touched added something new. This is the part most textbooks skip. While European nobles in 1100 were still eating fruit at room temperature, chemists in Baghdad and Damascus had already figured out how to freeze water in the middle of the desert. By 600 AD, Tang Dynasty China had turned snow and buffalo milk into something closer to dessert than survival food, refining recipes that royal kitchens guarded like state secrets. But it was the Islamic Golden Age that changed everything. Physicians dissolving saltpeter into water discovered something extraordinary. The reaction itself pulled heat out of the liquid, dropping the temperature low enough to freeze it on command. No mountain, no winter, no ice required at all. They used this same chemistry to invent sharbat, chilled fruit drinks served in courts from Baghdad to Cairo, centuries before a single European understood why salt could make water cold. Meanwhile, in Mughal India, the solution was almost theatrical: relay teams on horseback racing Himalayan ice down to the plains before the sun could finish it off. 3 civilizations, 3 different machines built from human ingenuity, all solving the same ancient riddle. Then, in the 1500s, this chemistry finally crossed into Italy, carried along trade routes, copied into European notebooks, repeated in royal courts from Florence to Paris. And somewhere in that crossing, something quietly disappeared. The names of the Arab chemists who unlocked it were never carried over with the knowledge itself. Only the trick survived. The discovery became European. Its origin became a footnote, if it was mentioned at all. But the real cost of ice cream wasn't paid by emperors or chemists. It was paid by a man whose name almost no one remembers, and by men whose names were never written down at all. Frederick Tudor was 23 in 1806, when he bet his family's fortune that frozen New England lake water could survive a voyage to the Caribbean and still be worth something when it arrived. Boston laughed. The newspapers printed his name like a punchline. His first shipment melted into nothing, and the loss followed him for years. He wrote letter after letter to investors who had stopped opening his envelopes. Twice, debt collectors carried him off to prison cells, where he sat doing math on scraps of paper, calculating exactly how much sawdust it would take to keep a 300-pound block of ice solid for 3,000 miles. Boston believed selling ice was a fool's errand. Water, sold to people who'd never asked for it, shipped somewhere it would simply disappear. Tudor believed something nobody else could see yet, that the human craving for cold was bottomless, and whoever solved the delivery problem first would own the answer to a thirst the whole world didn't know it had. While he sat in boarding houses scribbling insulation ratios, an invisible workforce was already doing the work his theory depended on. Irish immigrants standing waist-deep in freezing water, soaring through ice thick enough to swallow a man whole, hauling 300-pound blocks onto sleds with bare, cracking hands. Some of them didn't survive the work. None of them are named in what came next. Tudor would eventually get his fortune. But not yet. Right now, he is still a punchline, still in debt, still unproven, and the men keeping his entire theory alive one block at a time will never see a page of history with their names on it. But the real villain in this story was never the laughter, never the creditors. It was something far older and far harder to see. Not a banker, not a newspaper, not one mocking headline in the Boston Gazette. The villain is a pattern. A society that wants the pleasure without ever asking about the price. The same crowd that bought Tudor's ice never once asked which labourer lost fingers cutting it, which one slipped under the surface and didn't come back up. They just wanted it cold. This same pattern still operates today. Most people cannot see it because they are inside it. Walk down any grocery aisle. Pick up anything sweet, anything cheap, anything wrapped in plastic and priced lower than it should be possible to price it. Nobody on the label tells you whose hands made it that cheap. You don't ask. You've never had to ask. That's not an accident. That's the system working exactly as designed. And if you think that pattern died with the ice trade, look at what happened in the last 10 years. The ice runners of 1850 are not as far away as you think. They are in your kitchen, in your phone, in the people who quietly hold up your life. In the last 10 years, investigations have pulled back the curtain on cocoa farms, where children as young as 5 spend their days harvesting the beans that become your candy, your hot chocolate, your bowl of ice cream. On the other side of the world, workers dig cobalt out of the ground with their bare hands so the phone in your pocket can hold a charge. In cold storage warehouses, in packing plants, in places most of us will never see, people move product through brutal conditions so that what reaches your table arrives easy, cheap, and already forgotten. We didn't end the pattern, we just moved it somewhere quieter. So ask yourself something honestly. Have you ever eaten something sweet without once wondering whose hands made it possible? Have you ever leaned on someone's labour? A parent who never slept enough, a co-worker who covered for you, a stranger stocking a shelf at midnight, and let the moment pass without a word of thanks? Most of us have, not out of cruelty, out of habit. The ice runners didn't get a thank you either. So what do you owe to the people whose names you'll never know? Because here is the thing about ice cream, and about everything else we take for granted. The same dessert that emperors hoarded, that engineers built clay monuments to preserve, that a man went to prison for twice, that dessert now sits in the back of your freezer, half finished, eaten standing up in front of a television, barely tasted at all. The thing that once cost lives is now the thing we forget we even bought. That's the part nobody tells you about progress. It doesn't just make impossible things possible. It makes them invisible. Every pleasure you take for granted was once someone's impossible dream and someone else's unpaid price. So the next time something good and easy lands in front of you, take 1 extra second. Notice the hands you'll never see. Say thank you out loud, even if no one's there to hear it, to the people who showed up early, who carried the weight, who made your easy moment possible by making their own moment hard. Don't just consume. Witness. That's the whole debt, and it's one you can actually start repaying today. Taste it. Thank it. Remember it. Nothing sweet was ever free. This has been Untold History Diaries.